What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. I don't have much of an outline for this video, but I have been thinking about it. I think I'm reaching a point I'm realizing pride, at least the way I go about pride, is limiting me the same way my introversion limited me when I was a teenager. And it feels like I'm going to have to do something about my pride the same way I did something about my introversion. Which is to say, extreme measures at first, and then years until a full adjustment has happened. And I'm still introverted, but it's not as bad as it was. And my introversion isn't as bad as it was in two ways. One, it doesn't usually get in the way of my functioning anymore. And then two, it doesn't hurt as much. And if we're comparing this introversion versus the pride, or we look at where introversion is now to see or to think about where pride might be in however many years, part of it is change, adjusting how you work with it, but then the other part of it is getting over it, or getting over the painful parts of it. Meaning, if pride follows the introversion path, I'm not sure what my advanced pride would look like. First, pride itself is not going anywhere. I'll probably be able to shut it off when I need to, which I already do to an extent in my professional life, but it's always thorny when it happens. I'm assuming I'll have that ability in all areas, and it won't feel so bad when I do it. And then also, I'm assuming I'll stop trying to force my way, or feeling I need to force my way through passages I wasn't supposed to be in the first place. Back to introversion to explain this. I used to hate being alone, or at least knowing there is nobody important to me in my life. Nobody I can confide in, nobody I can share experiences with. That used to bother me a lot. Painfully so. And that hurt so bad because, one, I felt like I needed it, and two, that sort of connection is not something humans can provide you. These days, I confide in my channel, and I spend time with my projects. I accepted the nature of the problem. I found options that were better suited to me, and then, even though it took years, the pain subsided. And then with the functional introversion, that was more of an exposure therapy thing, which is another reason I like my job, like the work I do. Because when you have to get over something, odds are a lot better you will get over it. With pride, I'm assuming something similar is going to happen. Because there's something wrong with what I'm trying to do. I think the disconnect here, we look back at the introversion, the disconnect was people are not there for you. And not only won't they be, but can't they be. On the pride side, you're hoping or expecting people not to try you, or not to impose on you, or not to feel like you owe them something. They can't not do that. That's human nature. Human nature is to disrespect people you think you can disrespect. It's to take shit from people you think you can take shit from. And it's to feel entitled to other people's everything at all times. That's hoping people will choose. That's the thing. With introversion, you're hoping people will choose to care about you by doing any number of things or reasoning any number of ways. People don't care about you. They won't care about you. Both because you're not worth caring about, and also because people are incapable of providing that care. And who are you to expect people to care about you? It's the same thing with respect. It's not going to happen. In spite of all the words we say on this channel, I still look at people like there is, or at least should be, some kind of common kinship. And it's not there. So maybe emotionally we get to a point, in the same way we stop expecting people to care on any level, we also reach a point we don't just know, but we know, we understand, we accept people won't respect on any level. And that'll make it okay emotionally. And this is another thing. I think one of my fundamental issues, because I've watched Silence of the Lambs 2 times in a row. Well, not in a row, but within a week. And I've been thinking a lot about the ask of each particular thing, what is it in itself? What is its nature? I think my issue is I feel betrayed at all times. As in, you're raised to play a game by this set of rules, and then all anyone ever does is disrespects those rules to get over on you, and then gets irritated when you're irritated at them about it, and also throws a fit if you break from the rules. That's how I feel about pretty much everything at all times. I try to learn the rules of something based on what people tell you those rules are, and then nobody follows them, but it's only a problem, or it's a problem only when you get out of line. The same way we learned, it took a long time, but we learned the actual rules of emotions and caring. We'll probably need, we already have an idea of what the actual rules of respect are. It'll be more a matter of coming to accept them and then adjusting around them. And then probably also finding out where you're supposed to be in the respect game. I learned to make money off the actual rules of the emotions and care game. You can confide in some cunt who won't get it and will betray you for free, or for nothing rather. In many cases, probably you're going to be paying for it. Or you can go about it the way I go about it and get paid to do it. Or generate opportunities from doing it. And how would that look for Pride? Well, I think we're already sort of on the right track, professionally at least. Because if people can't play the decency game, the mutual respect game, the humanity, brotherly kinship game, then there are other ways to get respect. And I think that's by making yourself super essential. And also unaccountable. At least by the people you are now essential to. And I haven't the slightest idea how that'll look in practice. Because it's not just being essential to people and also unaccountable to them, because all that does is breeds resentment. And that's not good enough. They can't just need you. They also need to be afraid of you. Within reason. Maybe that means starting a business, a proper business. I'm not there yet, but I'm developing the skills I would need to do that. But with the introversion and care stuff, it took me 10 years just about. Or well, probably less than 10 years, but it took a while to get to where I am right now. But thankfully, we have time, and I remember the exact moment I decided I was going to have to do something about this. But maybe actually there are two things here, because introversion was one that came a little bit later. Part of the pride thing, or I would say the emotional care thing, happened a little bit before that. But the emotional care and introversion grouped up into one over time. But I'm going to have to make a decision about this pride thing, because I keep trying to do this eye to eye with people, and it is not working. Not working this way. And it's been causing problems, but it's getting to the point I know I need to do something about this, because if I don't, I'm gonna be stuck at this level forever. But this video is called The Cost of Pride. The first 10 minutes of this video I wasn't expecting to make. As I said, I don't have an outline for this. So what am I talking about with the cost of pride? When did I decide to start paying for pride, and what am I paying for it? I think this started toward the end of high school. Maybe every seed was planted toward the end of high school. And over time, they've bloomed into these problem flowers that get picked, and then you decide what you're going to do with them. And we've been doing YouTube long enough. I think I have a video from back in this era. If I'm not mistaken, I know the thumbnail. It's friend and friend, blue and red. That's the thumbnail with the frog avatar. I think it's Friendship versus Productivity is the video, the title. If you want to hear much younger Skimmerlit's thoughts about this sort of thing, you can go back to that video, because I think that whole video is talking about this sort of thing from back then. Anyway, with the friendship and emotional care stuff, there was a moment I split from most people I was dealing with, high school friendships and whatnot. Not entirely, not cleanly, unfortunately, but I was, for most of my high school life, I was a sometimes friend. And that was crushing, because there were a few people, all I wanted to do, these were my closest friends, all I wanted to do was spend time with them. But I was not a priority to them the way they were a priority to me. And I spent a lot of time alone, feeling like a neglected dog. And that's where I've always been an odd person. I don't know a better way to say that. I think it changed when it was younger, or when I was younger. It was more malignant autism, and then past a point it turned into whatever this is, malignant autism plus, probably. But I used to be the graphic t-shirts and cargo pants and flip-flops guy, the gamer person. But then toward the end of high school, that started getting weird. I had a mohawk. I was the wacky guy. I had this weird combat Jesus phase for a while, where I was walking around in yoga shirts and milsurp pants and boots and shit. Which, to be fair, back then when I was rather athletic, it was a pretty good look. But I decided I wasn't going to wait around on people who didn't care about me anymore. And that's when I invested heavily in my channel. Even though it wasn't going anywhere, I made videos for years with next to no audience, because that was my outlet. And that's an emotional or a care decision, a friendship decision there was also an element of pride in there. But pride is weird because it doesn't feel like pride really comes online until you start to matter. As in, when I was younger, disrespectful stuff would bother me, but some disrespect and degrees of disrespect didn't bother me as much because I didn't realize or appreciate how much I was being disrespected. Because you're trained to have no self-respect. You're trained to view yourself as worthless. But then, once you build some self-respect, and not just the sort of self-respect you have because you're raised to believe you have it, which is annoying. That sort of person annoys me, and there are a lot of them. But you earn it. I'm stronger than you are. I am essential to whatever it is you need. I've proven alone and in spite of odds, I am capable of doing things. And then you build that frame of reference and you realize not just what people are doing to you or how they view you, but also how they view themselves and how little of their own esteem they've earned and how unaccustomed to consequences they are. And then it starts bothering you. And it starts bothering you more and more and more until the smallest form of disrespect really gets under your skin. Like the Kanye West, the PDF thing. He tells me he doesn't know how to make a PDF. For $2 million, I'm giving you $2 million, and you're going to tell me you don't know how to make a PDF. And for retards who don't do anything, low-level people, which is a lot of people, basically low-level people, they look at that and they laugh, and they don't realize how right Kanye was to be that angry. Even if fuckhead, whoever he was dealing with, even if he didn't mean to be disrespectful. Or like the Sopranos' own Hasidic homeboy. You're going to walk into a man's house with your shoes off and put your fucking feet on his shit. And that one's a little more interesting because I'm willing to bet Noah didn't mean to be disrespectful. But one, that doesn't change the fact it is disrespectful. And two, the really irritating thing about that character, and you can see it in his fucking face, is he's accustomed, his natural mode is to be passively disrespectful. I'm sure if someone had, or if Tony had discussed this with Noah in a more polite way, Noah would be as upset as he was about being called a charcoal briquette as he would be about being politely called on his shitty behavior. Because that's that sort of person, and that's most people. And why am I so irritated on this channel so often? It's because, and this is another thing I've thought about. Or maybe you're coping, maybe you're trying to make this less obnoxious. I tell myself most of my viewership isn't actually like that. I tell myself the reason all I see, for the most part, are really obnoxious people, flavors of that Noah sort of person, is they are the only ones who would feel comfortable bringing all of their retardation and putting it in your face and expecting you to accept it. That's what I tell myself. I watched a short of Hitman earlier, and he held this woman up at gunpoint, and she said something like, "If you expect me to beg for my life, I'm not going to. I have something called dignity. So I'm going to ask you, as an equal, that you don't shoot me." And then she gets shot in the face. Thank God. There are people like that. As in, there are people, let's say, the young black women who have only white friends of America, who decide they're going to go out to a clan gathering out in the middle of nowhere, a secret clan gathering, and protest it, and have no conception of why you shouldn't do that. Or these white women who go biking through the Middle East and Africa, and then they get abducted by aliens. Do you have no understanding that alien abductions are very high in those areas? This has been a long tangent. In the past, let's say on the flip side of the black woman with white friends example, if I were a Klansman in that situation, younger me would have tried to take these young women aside and explain to them why it's a bad idea to be here, and I would feel obligated to listen to what they had to say. In the past, I had such little self-respect. I would feel obligated to treat people as equals or as if they were important, try to show them respect as individuals, which is what you should do, right? But the problem is nobody, not one person alive, will do that for you. So many things you're taught to do, you're trained to be prey. In that clan example, what you should do, if you happen to be a Klansman in this situation, is watch the trees blow and the wind blow through the trees, and then green lights, that's the turn, and then these beams come down and they all get picked up and brought into the sky by aliens, and then you never see them again. That is what you should do. Once you decide not to let people push you around, you develop a keen sense of how frequently people are trying to push you around and in how many ways. And at least for right now, that's one of the costs. A constant awareness of other people's hostility toward your personal sovereignty. Because fucking off is not something people understand how to do. Staying in your lane is not something people understand how to do. Every person alive feels entitled to part of your lane. They feel you owe it to them. And they'll invent any number of reasons, and they'll do any number of things to fuck you. Part of that price is it's very hard for me to deal with people when I don't need to. I like having this Discord server for experimental purposes, because you get to see a lot of shit. I already wasn't looking at people like people, but I really had to reevaluate what I see when I see another person. Because all I see these days is another vector for irritation. And this is especially the case with online people, because there is no need for online people. whatsoever. So, in the void of all necessity, what are people? 99% of the time, color by numbers irritations. 1 in 100 might surprise you, but that's like one plague rat out of 100 that knows how to talk and dance. It's still a plague rat. And the cost here is another separation from people. This is like Hyperlight Drifter, you go around collecting the shit you need. In this life, we are collecting layers of separation from other human beings. And rightfully so, because they aren't really human beings. Or if they are, then you aren't. I'm not going to put up with anything I don't feel like dealing with, because most people, are not worth how ugly they are, or how annoying they are, how ignorant they are of their own funky shit. And I recognize this is a cost, but I had to think about why it's a cost. My first answer was, well, when you don't feel like tolerating anything you dislike, or you feel disrespect from all angles, or all you view people as, or one of the things you view all people as, is vectors for disrespect, then that cuts you off from what people could offer you. And that felt like an answer for a little while, but that's not it. Because people don't offer you anything. At least when you are computing them as people. People are awesome when you don't look at them like people. When you look at them like resource harvesters in your mobile phone game, and that's it, they're super cool. People are awesome. But when you're looking at them, or trying to look at them like people, as if there is something valuable hidden away in their souls, you're wrong and in for problems. People have nothing in their souls but contempt for you, if not now, then eventually. Long delay fuses in some cases. Problems for you. Negativity for you. People's souls exist to bring you down. They exist to suck in your anything good and then kill it. So no, it's not that you are missing out on what people's souls bring to the table. You are missing out on people. That's the answer. But the answer, or what the cost is the cost of the inefficiency of the way you are having pride around people right now. As in, a more advanced Skimmerlit who has figured out how to have pride on the one hand and how to deal with people on the other, instead of trying to cross them and getting zapped repeatedly, as you are now, that's Skimmerlit, because he's worked out how to have his pride and knows where to put his pride. That Skimmerlit can benefit from the numbers of people without the costs, the inefficiencies of trying to view them as people. You can't view them as people. This is a lesson we keep coming back to, and we keep learning different angles to. People are not people, and the longer you view them as people, the longer you will suffer. The long path isn't to learn how to integrate with people. It is to learn how successfully to detach from people. That is the path we're on. And that's the only path that gets results. Unless you want to do deep cover shit. That's another thing. One of the remaining people at my nonprofit, she knows how to get things done by having no pride, by allowing people to look at her like a fucking idiot, to lie to people, to massage people who have no business being massaged. And there are aspects of her that still annoy me, like the way she postures as Miss Kind and Considerate, but she has no common sense kindness. And that's interesting. You see that a lot with. I'm pretty sure she's a TE Dom. I don't know if she's an ENTJ or an ESTJ. Not all TE Doms have pride, by the way. Or they do, but it's. And especially in the women. We actually saw an example of this in the Discord server, come to think of it, not that long ago. The this and that pushover is a genre of the TE Dom. Talks about tolerance all the time, but I guarantee you would not tolerate me. But I think she knows what I am, because people around her don't like me. We function in spite of shit, because I'm proud and organized, and she is a tactical pushover and is very disorganized. But has a lot of that disorganized, can muster an army overnight energy, even though she flakes out on shit. But not always. It really irritates me when she flakes out on shit. But she can actually, on occasion, muster an army overnight that I could never do. It's functional. And even though I'm sure within these ponds and pools will hate each other the moment this nonprofit goes under, I do have a deep respect for the way she strategically uses her pushoverness. Make no mistake, she is a pushover. That is part of her. Especially around irrational and mean people. But maybe that's probably a consequence of childhood trauma. You see that shit all the time. She'll give me shit, or she'll push back on me about shit. But the moment someone comes in who's being a real fucking cunt, she'll roll over and take their side. She's one of the few people I've met who has actual pushover power and also can deal with it. I can't do what she does because I have too much dignity. And that is a slight if I were to assume my way of being is the only way of being. But fortunately, one of the benefits of coming from a view other people as people background is knowing there are lots of different ways of doing things. And it's alien to me, but she gets results doing it, and she doesn't seem too miserable with it. I can't do what she does. And I think it functions because we are not friends. In spite of the pushoverness, I think she's the sort of person who gets power over people by befriending them. Because as far as I know, she has acquaintances, but I don't think she has any actual friends. And that's probably because the friends she makes, she passive-aggressively strong-arms them. That's my guess. Until it's something needs to happen. Because she tried to be friendly with me at first, and that was where that was headed. And I put a stop to it, and there's been a barrier there ever since, and it's a little sad, but it's a good thing, because if that is the way she does friendship, then there's no way we could be friends. You'd irritate me badly. In a short amount of time, we were slightly being friends. You really irritated the shit out of me. But I talk about this both to reflect on pride and also to wonder if this is what advanced pride is going to look like. Emotionally insulated, goal directed. But what realistically can you direct lots of people toward? Especially considering, if we're talking about the social media side of things, all these little cocksuckers want to be acknowledged by you as an individual. They want you to validate them. They feel owed your validation. They also feel owed control over what you think, what you do. In my fantasy land, that probably, it's funny the way fantasy lands work. In my experience, you always end up moving in the direction of your fantasy land, even if you never reach it. My fantasy land, we have almost like a manufacturing center, digitally. I have my office overseeing things, but most people don't get to go in there. There are a few community managers, which I think is what the whole captain's thing in the Discord was originally intended to be. But that fell apart because really what was happening in the inner circle was that was an effort to make friends. And that's not what we're here to do, because friends don't exist. Equals don't exist. One will, and that will is mine. You oversee and manage and direct the numbers. And then what do the numbers do? The artists, a lot of artists try to join the Discord server. A lot of programmers try to join the Discord server. I hate a programmer. And there are a lot of them. Maybe that's why the internet, at least, is so opposed to AI. All of you, oh boy, wouldn't that be funny? All of the online Jimmy dipshits listened to the learn to code meme, and they became programmers and got into video game development because they like video games. And then AI came in. If that's what happened, that's so funny. Go fuck yourself. That is so funny. God. I hope we have another true Great Depression and you're hurt worst by it. That is so funny. You listen to what everyone tells you to do, and then you get fucked for it. And then you're not going to learn. You're not going to learn. You're going to blame everybody but yourself and the people who told you. Right? You're going to blame AI for getting laid off instead of blaming yourself for not seeing it coming, instead of blaming people who told you to do this. And then always they look down on other people. Everybody who jumps on the latest trend, the this is what you're supposed to be doing trend, they all look down on other people for about 5 minutes until they start getting fucked. Tradies, that's happening with them too. Actually, that kind of started a while back, but people who have been in the trades, jumped on the trades, on that train, they're getting fucked. Even if you're getting paid well, which is not usually the case. Because that's another thing. It's not like trades, you go in there and do a hard day's work and get paid. There are 15 levels of you getting fucked before you get your paycheck that's meager. That was already going to be meager. However, the difference is I have a little more sympathy for the, not going to call them tradies. If they stuck it out and became proper tradesmen, I have more sympathy for them. Programmers, they're like, they have an artist's attitude, but not even really the fumes of hoity-toityness to back them up whatsoever. I hate artists, but the benefit of an artist is They they're like a lamp, a really nice lamp. You get one artist, you can put one artist in a group of people or around a group of people like a fixture, and they pull their own weight with their stench. Programmers can't do that. Programmers are just annoying. It's got to be something in brain chemistry. You know the sort of person I get along with? I think Patrice O'Neill was onto something with his agents, his army of Jews. Low to mid-level Jews. Or fields in which low to mid-level Jews prosper. I get along well with bookkeepers. I get along well with government secretaries, bureaucrats. I get along well with other executive directors, interestingly enough. Maybe that's more of a... That's probably more of a field thing than an essence thing. However, well, because they're snaky. But we at least get along and have stuff to talk about. Maintenance workers. That is a class of person that is severely underrated. I get along well with keep the lights on people. And maybe that's because we have to get along to keep the lights on. Or because we know what goes into keeping the lights on, we are less inclined to cause problems for one another, which makes us like one another more. We got into another tangent. We were talking about the numbers. We take the numbers, instead of turning away at the door people I know I'm going to hate immediately, and I don't want to have to go through the whole rigmarole of confirming that I'm going to hate them, and they're going to hate me, and they're going to cause me problems. Give them something to do, something to contribute toward. Some mundane, low effort, but also low skill task that people can just be put to if they want to be involved in something that will benefit the organization. The biggest issue is I don't know what that is. One of my little ideas was to get everyone involved in tracking stocks or other financial assets and do this for a long time. But everybody who comes in, you get an assignment, and your job is to look at this thing. And if it does this, tell somebody. The idea being, we, as in Stellaris Cosmogenesis, the astral lathe, we crowdsource trading. Over time, we brute force it. And the benefit, or what you get out of participating in this, outside of being part of a Skimmerlit thing, if that's something you want, is if we figure something out, then you're one of the people who's going to benefit from it. And the reason we aren't doing that is it's not straightforward enough. It's not simple enough. I think in terms of human resources, if we had an idea, there are people we could make captain right now, I'm betting, if we had a clear job to do, who would perform pretty well. But I haven't figured out that one thing yet. What is a simple thing that we can put people to? What is our wheel of pain? What can we do to monetize a lot of you mildly so we can turn that into one big result or one big sum that we can then put toward doing weird or interesting shit? Because there's weird and interesting shit I want to do. And I think the way... This is a puzzle we're going to have to solve. This is why we're talking about the pride thing. I'm going to have to figure out my pride, so we can figure out how to do this. So we can instead of GoFundMe, we can go work me up into some weird shit. Because doing the weird shit is what I live for. Mildly participating in the weird shit is probably what you live for. All these little tests and experiments we did earlier in the year and last year, people liked those a lot. And witnessing the weird shit is what everybody else lives for. I can lead you into retarded Valhalla. All I need to do is get my pride sorted out and figure out what it is we can stick people on. The cost of having your pride inefficiently is not being somewhere a lot cooler right now. But that's fine. I'm beginning to think in terms of decades. I don't rush on things anymore. Because I don't want to be old and bored. I would prefer to have something interesting to do when I'm old. And to have something interesting to do when I'm old, I have to make, or I have to stretch, not just stretch the game out, but I have to keep the game going for as long as possible. And ensure I have a place in my game. And this is a thing people can do. There was a dude I knew who's dead now, but he was I think a general contractor, but he did everything. His entire life, he just got into so much weird shit, and in his 80s, he was doing physical labor on top of running a business. He ran drugs in the 80s using his construction shit. He went to prison. He fucked waitresses. He was fat. Legend. And he died. But he lived a long time. And he lived a good, whole-ass life. And that's not a life I would be able to lead, even if I wanted to, because that's not the sort of person I am. But that flavor of life is something I can live. Because I'm already living it. It's just scaling and getting there and keeping things rolling and keeping things interesting. All I want from life is to keep myself entertained by something that can hold my attention and feels worth investing time in. That's why I'm not one of these unplug and live in a cabin people. How awful would that be after 20 minutes? I want cool, engrossing shit happening. This was not the video I thought I was going to make. I thought this was going to be this pseudo-sad, introspective video, and it wasn't. Well, it was, kinda, but not really. This was more of a, wow, this felt good to make video. Regardless, we will cut it here so we don't go on rambling. This was a mega tangent video. I would go in one direction, and then I would get off track, and then I would get really off track, and then we would never quite get back on track. Normally, I try to talk in parentheses, open a tangent, and then close it and get right back to where we were. That didn't quite happen this time. But we'll cut it here so this doesn't go on. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.